Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a comprehensive overview of the income approach in real estate valuation. We'll explore the key concepts, various methods, and practical applications that help assess property values accurately. Whether you're new to this approach or looking to deepen your understanding, this presentation will provide valuable insights to enhance your expertise in property valuation. Let's get started. The income approach is a method of valuing real estate by focusing on the income that the property generates. At its core, it looks at how much money the property can produce rather than just the physical attributes or comparable sales. One key concept here is the net operating income, or NOI, which is essentially the income left over after all operating expenses have been paid. Understanding NOI helps us determine the true profitability of the property. Next, we have the capitalization rate, or cap rate. This is the expected rate of return an investor would anticipate from the property. It helps us connect the income with the value, showing how much income corresponds to a certain investment level. Finally, there's a gross income multiplier, or GM, which is a ratio comparing the property's price to its gross income. This metric is especially useful for commercial and rental properties, where the value ties directly to the income the property produces. Together, these concepts form the foundation of the income approach and help investors make informed decisions. Let's walk through the capitalization process step by step. First, we calculate the net operating income, or NOI, which is essentially the expected income generated by the property after operating expenses. Next, we identify the capitalization rate, or cap rate, which acts as a divisor in our calculation and reflects the expected rate of return. Then, we apply the capitalization formula. Property value equals NOI divided by the cap rate. For example, if the NOI is $100,000 and the cap rate is 8%, the property value would be $1,250,000. Finally, we interpret this result as the present market value of the property, offering a clear and straightforward way to estimate its worth based on its income. Let's walk through the direct capitalization method. First, we start by determining the net operating income, or NOI. This method uses 1 year stabilized NOI, which means the income is expected to be consistent and reliable over time. Next, we identify the capitalization rate, or cap rate, which is derived from the market. This rate reflects the expected rate of return for similar properties and helps us estimate the property's value. For example, a typical cap rate might be 7.5%. Finally, we calculate the property value by dividing the NOI by the cap rate. So, if the NOI is $150,000, dividing that by 0.075 gives us a property value of $2 million. This approach is straightforward and particularly useful for properties with stable and predictable income streams. The discounted cash flow method involves several key steps to determine the value of a property. First, we estimate the annual net cash flows throughout the holding period, which means predicting the income minus expenses each year. Next, we decide on the length of the holding period, how long we plan to keep the property. Then, we calculate the terminal value, which reflects the property's estimated worth at the time of sale or the end of that period. After that, we apply an appropriate discount rate to all these cash flows. This rate accounts for the time value of money and investment risk. Finally, we sum all the discounted cash flows and the terminal value to arrive at the total value of the property. This process helps us understand what the property is truly worth today, based on future income potential. When we look at the advantages of the income approach, one of the main benefits is that it directly ties the property's value to its actual income potential. This means the price reflects real financial performance, which is really useful for investors. It's also market-driven, using capitalization rates that capture what investors expect in terms of returns, making it very relevant to current market conditions. Additionally, it's quite flexible and can be applied to a variety of property types, which adds to its practicality. On the other hand, there are some limitations to keep in mind. This approach requires accurate and reliable data on income and expenses, which isn't always easy to get. The capitalization and discount rates used can be pretty subjective and vary a lot depending on who is doing the valuation and market conditions. Lastly, this method is less suitable for properties that don't generate regular income streams, since the approach depends heavily on steady cash flows. So, while powerful, it's important to use this approach carefully and understand its boundaries. When we look at practical applications, the income approach is a go-to method for valuing many types of commercial rental properties. For example, let's consider an office building with a net operating income, or NOI, of $300,000 and a capitalization rate of 6%. By dividing the NOI by the cap rate, we arrive at a property value of $5 million. Apartment complexes, on the other hand, often require a more nuanced method like discounted cash flow analysis. This is because their income can be more variable, so projecting future cash flows and discounting them to present value provides a clearer picture. For retail centers, the approach tends to focus on direct capitalization, which uses a projected net operating income to determine value. Ultimately, the choice between these methods depends heavily on factors like how stable the income stream is and what the specific valuation goals are. This ensures a final value estimate accurately reflects the market reality